Absolutely fantastic, and just to bring this meat into this conversation, to the bones that is sports. Nick.
Absolutely. Good morning.
Morning.
It's been an action-packed weekend in terms of KPL, APL, and of course I'm joined by Mr. Patrick Korir, who will be telling me more about all that happened over the weekend. We'll quickly start with the Kenya Premier League, whereby we saw for the first time Tusker losing the game this season, still on top. What do you think is the way forward for these big teams? Because we saw Gor Mahia breaking the jinx against Ulinzi, Tusker also being beaten by Sofapaka.
It just clearly tells you about the quality of the league. It simply means that you can't quite race to the title. You have to be checked along the way. Now, Tusker Sofapaka game was quite surprising in the sense that Tusker had not conceded more than a goal in 7 games. The last game they played against Sony, for once, they didn't concede a goal. But then suddenly they shipped in 4 goals. So it becomes a bit funny because when you look at it, it's like a clothesline. You can tie a clothesline across 2 poles and tighten it, but then the moment you put clothes, it actually weighs it down, it actually sags. And I think that's exactly what happened to Tusker, that tight, they go into a team. I mean, clearly you know that Kimanzi is one of the best coaches they have. They prepared well for that game, but Timbe said, you know what? These guys beat us in the top 8. We're not going to let them go.
Sweet revenge.
We had to revenge, and that was a sweet revenge.
Gor Mahia is now breaking the jinx, though the weather was not so much favorable for them. They broke the jinx against Ulinzi Stars. They have been inconsistent against the Soldiers, but yesterday we saw some pedigree in terms of attacking, coming from behind, winning the match 2-1 before the match was nearly rained off. What do you think about the progress? Because Gor Mahia, as you've seen, they've also been stuttering actually.
Actually, I like that. I like the fluidity of how those goals came, because when I watched, I was like, okay, those are very good goals. But then I think we have to go back slightly. They're playing in the Continentals.
Absolutely.
So they had a lot of concentration in the Continentals. Now they had to get their mind back to the local scene. Now, I think the moment they're beaten by Bandari, they woke up to the fact that, you know what, we're defending champions.
Absolutely.
We need to put that Champions League away from us, and let's now start defending our title. And I think now, if they played yesterday there, they did, then I can see that's the goal that we expect to see this season.
Do you think Rama Salim and Danny Sankuma's chemistry is working out again, because we saw a very little combination from them yesterday?
I think that's exactly what you expect. Remember before Salim went to wherever he had gone to, to Oman or Qatar, sorry, before he went to Qatar, they had one of the best combinations in terms of getting goals. And I think slowly Rama is getting back to that, because he scored in the previous game.
Absolutely.
Now he scored again at the weekend. So I think they're beginning to get back to that partnership.
Another striker who came back home, let me say, in the name of Blackberry Odhiambo. What do you think about him? Because he's been silent and consistent. Do you think the Kenyan soccer is getting a toll on him, or what do you think about the player?
Well, I think what happens is the moment you step out, it takes a lot of heart for you to actually get back to the local scene. A lot of it is mental. You've been to Denmark, you've been to Tanzania, you've been to Armenia, you've played in the Champions League, you have a Champions League.
Absolutely.
So by the time you get back home, now you also have to remember that the moment you step into Gor, there's a lot of pressure from the fans.
Absolutely.
And I think he is yet to actually get himself back to be the Blackberry that we did 2009 and 2010.
Now we have Matano in Ulinzi Stars. Nando was shown the door. The coaching transition in our leagues, is this a matter of impatience nature from our fans, or do you think the management are very quick to act on these coaches? Because now we're seeing Matano in, we're waiting to see who will take over AFC Leopards. What do you think about the coaching system of our Kenya Premier League teams?
It's very easy, Nicholas. The disparity between the Premier League and the lower league in terms of management, in terms of resources, in terms of how much money you can actually get when you're on the top flight and the lower flight is very different. You don't want to go down.
Absolutely.
So it's simple. Don't get results, then you need to get someone else in. And I think that's what's happening. It's not a matter of impatience. The league is competitive. Who expected that Top Fry would actually beat Gor? You know, that's the kind of thing we're talking about. Now that's the quality of the league, that anyone can beat anyone, and you cannot afford to be at the lower part of the table right now. So if results don't come your way, then you need to get someone else
True
to
that.
get for you the results.
Now, Coach Ofoko, the Nigerian coach, left City Stars because, citing a financial instability and, of course, constraints. Do you think such teams, because we were aware at some point they were supposed to travel, but again, financial instability, decided we have no money for this match. So what do you think about City Stars and those teams trying to make it to the big?
I'll tell you what, Nicholas, it's not only City Stars that's struggling.
I
A
understand.
lot of teams are struggling. And I'll tell you what, if you do not have someone pumping in money to help you out, then being in the top flight is very tricky.
That's
I mean, the cash that teams are getting from the grant from Supersport and from Tusker for the naming rights, it's probably close to 7 million. But if you actually look at the quality of players that you need to get to survive in the league, then you have wage bills that are very serious.
Very serious.
Now that's weighing down a lot of teams, and if you don't get a sponsor, then trust me, you're going to struggle. Now City Stars, unfortunately, is not like Gor, where Gor can calculate upwards 1.2, 1.5 million in get takings. Now City Stars, they will not get that kind of figures unless they're playing Gor or AFC Leopards.
Absolutely.
It's hardly enough for them. So you can understand that they cannot pay the coach, and I mean, for obvious reasons, he just has to leave and someone else has to come in. In fact, it will come a time where coaches will be at KPL sides on voluntary basis.
What do you think the KPL is heading? It's only the first round. What do you think about, just finally about the KPL, what do you think we're heading in terms of the first round?
The way it looks like is that teams are actually trying to get their positions before the first leg is over.
Absolutely.
Now, I'll tell you, a team like KRA, for example, if you calculate with about 35 points, you can actually be in the top 8.
Absolutely.
Now, for KRA being the first season in the league, they already have 14 points. I mean, that's very impressive. So if you calculate that with about 30 points, you'll survive relegation.
All right.
With 14 points, then they actually, I think they've done so well so far in the first leg. Now, so teams are trying to get their placings, try to stay in the upper 8, and avoid the lower 8.
All right, now let's talk about EPL, and I'll sure involve James Smart in this, though he's not in the studio. But what do you think about Liverpool, Chelsea, and of course
Man City?
It's actually a 3-horse race, because we saw a shocker yesterday.
Yes, exactly. The conversation for a very long time has been the title is for Man City to lose. That's factoring in they had 2 games in hand. Now, yesterday they lost. Which means Liverpool actually have destiny in their own hands. It's no longer Man City, because they're now 7 points ahead of Man City. So if Man City win their 2 games, they'll still be 1 point behind Liverpool. So Liverpool actually have destiny in their own hands. Now, for a long time we had said that Man City are the favorites to win it. Just in case they don't, then Chelsea is there waiting. But now dynamics have changed.
Are we writing off Chelsea because you're seeing they're also consistent? Do you think Chelsea might also pull a surprise? Because if one fumbles, if Liverpool fumbles...
That's the thing. We are not writing off Chelsea, but we have to go back a few weeks ago. Who expected that Chelsea would lose to Aston Villa? Now, who expected that Crystal Palace would beat Chelsea? You see, that's the unpredictability of the league. Yeah, because now it is, a team has to drop points for another one to gain. Man City lost yesterday. Now, Chelsea, when they lost those 2 games, I mean, at some point they're 6 points clear. Dynamics changed. So right now, as we speak, the only team that has destiny in their own hands is actually Liverpool. So don't be surprised.
I know Arsenal fans are really...
Now, Arsenal, but they have a lot to deal with, because I think the FA Cup seems to be coming their way. We are not really saying it is going their way, because if you look at the league, they actually have Everton to deal with. They're currently 5th, Everton is 4th. So which means they're actually sitting on their space.
But you see,
Everton
can't leave it.
They can't leave it.
Yeah,
they can't leave it. That's what I'm saying. Arsenal fans would rather look at the FA Cup, because in terms of the league, Everton is not giving them breathing space.
Just to wind up this, who do you think will win this league? English Premier League?
Premier League.
Absolutely.
It's tight, but I'll just go with Liverpool, because right now, unless they falter, because everyone else is chasing them, so unless they falter, then it's their title to lose at this point.
Thank you so much, bro, for joining us here.
Thank you, Nicholas.